Welcome back to Matthew's boring math tutoring. We have to figure out what the horizontal shift is here. And now this is a weird one because normally you want to get things in the form of bx plus c when you're on the inside, so that way you can just be like, all right, there you go, that's my horizontal shift. But this is looking nothing like that right now. So how about we just focus on only that pi over 2 minus x over 4 first, and let's move it. I feel a little bit more comfortable if that minus x over 4 is in the front. And then I'm going to factor out the minus 1 over 4. That is getting factored out. And that way I can have my x plus, well, it turns out it's not going to be a plus. It's going to be minus whatever pi over 2 divided by negative 1/4 is. Now, if we're dividing by negative 1/4, that's the same thing as multiplying by negative 4. So then we multiply it by negative 4, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Negative 2 times pi is negative 2 pi. Okay, so yeah, it's going to be x minus 2 pi right there. You can distribute that if you're not sure. Looks like we didn't mess up. We're good. Okay, so now we have it in the form that we like. Therefore, I'm just going to write the rest of it. Cosine of blah, blah, blah. There's also a 3, and there's a plus 5. Now things are looking a little bit more Gucci. Okay, we got the bx plus c form. All right, so let's just write that directly above here. Bx plus c. Great. Okay, but what is my horizontal shift? My horizontal shift is 2 pi to the right. So that's going to be the first x value that I'm going to use. But now I got to ask myself what the period is. Okay, well, the period is always 2 pi divided by b. What is our b? It is negative 1/4. But really, it's 2 pi divided by absolute value of b. This like basically never comes up because we basically never give you a negative in front. But here it is, whatever. Anyway, 2 pi divided by 1/4, and that's going to come out to 8 pi. So that means our period is going to be 8 pi. Now, if I did 2 pi plus 8 pi, that would bring me to 10 pi. So I could do that. But then if I did that, let's say I put 2 pi over here, and then I just kept going up by 2's and be 4 pi, 6 pi, 8 pi. What would happen with my graph, whatever the hell it ends up looking like, something like this, whatever, it's not going to be on the y-axis. So that's kind of optional, but just so you know, what you could do is not start at 2 pi. Instead, because there is a period of 8 pi, you could subtract the 8 pi, and that means instead of starting at 2 pi, we're going to start at negative 6 pi. Now, we're still going to go over by a full period of 8 pi, but then that wouldn't have brought us to 10 pi. It would have brought us to, let's see, if we add 8, that would get us to 2 pi. And another reason why you might want to do that is just so that way your graph is not as clumped up together if you're given a graph paper like this. And this is what my student gave me. So therefore, we are going to be able to do things just by pi at a time now. So I can label this pi, I can label this 2 pi, negative 2 pi, and we are going to keep going until we get out to negative 6 pi. Okay, but what's the strategy when you're doing this stuff? Turns out you split it up into 4 sections. So we're going to divide our period by 4, and that will tell us that we are going over by 2 pi at a time to get our key points. So if I go over by 2 pi at a time, that'll bring me to negative 4 pi, negative 2 pi, 0 pi, also known as 0, and 2 pi. So those are the ones I'm going to care about in a second. But now I need to keep track of what's going on with my y values. And the nice shortcut for y values is just take whatever the number at the end is. That'll be your midline. We'll see a line for that in a second. And then the absolute value of that number there tells you how much to add and subtract. Now, if you add 3 here, you get to 8. If you subtract 3, you get to 2. So the lowest y value we're going to have is at 2. The highest is going to be at 8. And I've got 4 boxes. So y'all know what that means. We doing 2, 4, 6, 8. And when you graphing a cosine, you always start at the top and you end at the top. That's how you graph a cycle for a cosine. If you happen to have a negative in front, if I put a negative right here, then it would start at the bottom. But here we're starting with a positive. Now it's a 3. So it's going to change the y values, right? Here it's only 1 and negative 1. But we already discussed that. It's going to be a midline of 5. It's going to hit 2 at the bottom, 8 at the top. But it's going to start at the top, just like this one starts at the top. So we're going to start on our left side here at 8. At negative 6 pi, we're going to get 8. So that's going to be our first point. Let's put him in. And then he's going to finish the full cycle at 2 pi, and he's going to finish at 8 as well. Now, halfway between, we are going to hit our lowest value of 2. So what's halfway between here and here? Well, you can take the average. Negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. Divide by 2, that's negative 2. Now, you could have saw that visually as well. But there you go. That's what's going to happen halfway. And halfway between these two is going to be at negative 4 pi. And that's where you're going to hit the 5. In fact, we got to put a midline at 5. Remember how we talked about that before? And I was like, we're going to see it later. Well, later has come, and now it's in the past. All right, so we are going to put a point right there in the middle. And then what about in the middle between these two guys? Well, let's see. I guess we just have to go over by 2 pi, and that means we get another one of those points right there. And now here comes some artist skills for what a cosine graph looks like. It forms a shape that is very similar to fallopian tubes. And there we go. We got it. That is our shape. So kind of like a U, but a little bendy on the sides. And that's it. The video's over. You probably already left by now. You're probably not listening to this. But I'll see you later. Bye-bye.